being recorded. So once again, to our DISCUS members, my name is Joe Donadoni. I lead the membership department here. I'm really excited to have our guests from Provi talking about this topic today. We've talked about e-commerce from a few different angles, but never quite from the way that Provi approaches things. And I think they'll have some really helpful tips for all of us today. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Provi's Senior Vice President of Industry Affairs and Social Responsibility, a name many of you know, Mr. David Wonar. David, over to you.
Great. Hey, thanks, Joe. It's really great to be back with DISCUS. For those of you who don't know or remember the name, David Wonar. I spent 20 plus years working with DISCUS as SVP and Head of State Public Policy. In June, made the move from DISCUS to Provi, and really excited about Provi's relationship with DISCUS. And for those of you who are members and are cutting that check every year, no better organization to be affiliated with, and the money and investment is well worth it. With that said, great opportunity to learn more about Provi. My colleague Julia Hemsley is really the show here today. She is the expert on Provi and B2B commerce. So with that, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Julia.
Awesome. Thanks, David. I appreciate the kind words. I wanted to go ahead and kick things off with a little introduction on myself. I've been in the BevAlc industry for over 5 years now. I started my sales career going through the E&J Gallo leadership program down in Florida, where I worked both on and off-premise channels with Breakthrough Beverage as well as Johnson Brothers. I've also spent some time in the tech industry where I worked for G2, which is a B2B marketplace specific for software. I've had the pleasure of being with Provi since November of 2021, where I work with mid-size to craft producers on B2B e-commerce trade opportunities. So to kick things off, we'll first take a look at who Provi is and what we stand for, as well as followed by an industry snapshot of B2B e-commerce in BevAlc, and then ultimately how a craft producer like yourself can leverage a B2B marketplace. So first, let's dive into Provi. So Provi is a company that develops digital and publishing solutions that connect each tier across the BevAlc industry. We were founded in 2016 here in Chicago, and we have over 300 employees with an executive team that has a deep background in technology, hospitality, and CPG. What's really exciting is in January of 2022, we officially partnered with 750 Daily, as well as Beverage Media Group. So we're now all under one roof to help you create an omni-channel approach, which would then allow you to touch on and off-premise buyers at different stages of the funnel. So when you look at our purpose, what we really aim to do is bring more efficiency to the BevAlc industry and connect, the 3 tiers together. And our main focus by doing this is making the lives of the buyers, distributors, sales reps, and suppliers easier. So one example, if we look specifically at Provi's marketplace, it's important to understand that we're a B2B marketplace that enables on and off-premise buyers to order from all their distributors with a click of a button. Going digital is more important than ever as buyers pivot to marketplaces like ourselves to understand who carries what's new and exciting, and pricing transparency. So how we support the 3-tiered system is going to be in a few different ways. So the first is going to be by enabling retailers to sign up to our marketplace for free. Keep in mind, we are a gated platform, so we do verify each retailer through their liquor license. On the distributor side, we're going to showcase all distributors' products and push Provi orders to that respective distributor. And ultimately, we're helping suppliers by boosting brand awareness and driving revenue through brand promotions to these retailers on our platform. So when you take a deeper look at who is ordering and browsing on Provi, it's important to call out that we're available in 49 states across the US, and we have over 200,000 registered users. When you're looking at those 49 states, our largest markets include New York, Illinois, Colorado, Georgia, and Texas. And out of those buyers who are ordering through Provi, 75% are on-premise and 95% are independently owned. So because of our network, you're able to touch retailers in markets you may not have had the bandwidth for organically. So I like to call it an extension of your sales and marketing team. But one example of this is our latest partnership with Specs in Texas, where they have enabled their retailers to utilize our marketplace. So I'm sure everyone here has been hearing a lot about B2B e-commerce growth recently within the BevAlc industry itself, but I want to take a moment to, take a step back to understand how businesses across all industries, especially, like CPG, for example, are leveraging online to order and increase efficiencies. 49% of B2B purchases are now made online, according to a recent study. And that same study is showing that 50% of B2B buyers are getting their inspiration from B2B marketplaces. So I think it really touches on the importance a marketplace can play in the early stages of the discovery and buying journey. Additionally, 37% of B2B buyers in the US are using B2B marketplaces to search for products. And I think it's safe to say that B2B marketplaces are here to stay. According to a Digital Commerce 360 study, in 2021, B2B commerce sites, login portals, and marketplaces all saw their sales increase by over 18% to $1.63 trillion. So now that we have a better understanding of how the global B2B economy has benefited from e-commerce, let's zoom into what's been happening within the BevAlc industry itself with a lens on, craft and mid-sized producers and what they're working to navigate. For any new brand, trade marketing is key for growth and market expansion. However, building brand awareness and demand at a retail tier in a compliant way has completely evolved across the years. So when you look at it, how it all started, traditional print advertising was a big focus. And then following that, producers then moved into building out brand teams who would then generate demand by physically going to these bars and restaurants or retail shops. And then following that, event marketing emerged, and getting bartenders and owners to try their products through curated events and brand ambassador programs started becoming popular. But now digital marketing has emerged, and it's emerged as one of the biggest growth areas for producers, especially craft and medium-sized brands who may not have had the budget to spend on other avenues. So by leveraging digital solutions, these producers can generate brand awareness and educate the retail tier, which is a win-win overall, because that's the goal. And this slide here just kind of calls out, as a craft brand, especially spirit producers who are taxed more heavily, you're dealt with executive go-to-market strategies while being burdened with, supply chain, labor, tax, and inflation issues. So then that calls for the question of, how can we help you with these burdens, and how can a digital, B2B marketplace like Provi optimize growth for craft producers? Provi can be extremely valuable to craft suppliers when they're developing a B2B e-commerce marketing strategy and strengthening their omni-channel approach because of where we sit in the funnel. So through Provi's marketing solutions, you're virtually positioning yourself at the top of the digital aisle to boost awareness of your brand and influence the dollars these retailers have to spend. And on a monthly average, a retailer is ordering $9,000 worth of product on Provi. And so B2B marketplaces are really special because in this example, on and off-premise buyers, they're purchasing cases of your product on Provi, which then they'll showcase on a B2C online ordering platform, thus being a domino effect into your overall D2C and marketing strategy. And then the other thing too is the main advantage of leveraging an online marketplace is the power of data and how it can ultimately shape your go-to-market approach. So when you're advertising to a buyer, Provi's data is able to tell you where impressions, clicks, conversions are coming from. But on top of that, you're able to measure things such as new points of distribution and what your market share is within your category. And I think these types of insights are extremely valuable because it can then give you a lens into, which markets your creative assets are resonating most with, what stage are you catching the buyer's attention at, and just increasing overall visibility in these markets you may not have had a chance to get in front of otherwise. So, overall, Provi really welcomes suppliers, big and small, as we're able to craft strategies specific to your needs, whether it's on a national, a state, or channel type level, top of funnel or bottom of funnel. We're here to help achieve those goals as we have done so up until this point with suppliers of all size and continue to do so. So I want to thank you all for joining as we, walked through Provi as well as, the industry as a whole and B2B e-commerce opportunities. If you would like to learn more specifically about the supplier side and the opportunities we have, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or via email. But what I really wanted to do is just open the floor up now for questions. So I'll hand the mic over back to Joe and the audience. Thank you.
Julia, thank you. That was fantastic. A lot of interesting insights there. I have, as Julia just requested, allowed everybody to have access through the microphone if you want, so you can unmute yourself and ask a question of Julia and team here, or you can put those questions in the chat feature. So Julia, while we're waiting for any of those questions to come in, I had one that came to mind. You mentioned some of the data points that one could have available by using a platform similar to Provi. How does that compare to the data they might get by using one of the other consumer-facing e-commerce platforms like a Drizzly or Reserve Bar or something along those lines? Can you compare and contrast that?
Sure. So there are similarities where you can receive your standard advertising metrics that you do across any type of e-commerce platform. But I think it's important to note that where like a Drizzly fits in the funnel is direct to consumer versus where a Provi fits is going to be B2B. So it tends to be a little bit different of strategies as well, just because in this case, you're really trying to get, and you're really trying to get the retailer to purchase your product versus just the consumer itself. And so with Provi, other metrics we include are, points of distribution, which I know is valuable to everyone, as well as, market share percentage, and then overall cases on Provi. So how many cases are you seeing flow through the platform? And then just organic sales by market overall. So I really think too, I like to stress the points of distribution because as someone who came from, who used to work on premise and off premise, I understand the importance of building out new distribution and pods.
Good afternoon. Can you speak a little bit to pricing, not only just, how it's billed, but also this seems like a wonderful place for our distribution partners to be spending money instead of, or in addition to us, as opposed to it being solely on the supplier. Any comments on how relationships have worked like that in the past?
Yeah, so I'll start with the distributor side. The pricing just works. We have partner distributors versus non-partnered. I do want to stress that regardless if they're a partner of ours or not, we're going to show their products and push that order to the distributor, since we want to be a platform for retailers to come and order from all their distributors. The key difference from a distributor partnership really is going to be we're showcasing pricing and in certain instances deals for those partner distributors because we're integrated into their system. So everything is up to date. On the supplier side, through marketing promotions, it's really an investment what you feel comfortable with, whether it's as low as $500 or upwards of, in the thousands. It's just because it can be done on a regional level where, if you come to us and say, hey, I want to focus on Georgia and promote my products there, then we're able to work with you, which I've done in many different cases with suppliers before. And in terms of pricing for the supplier side, we use a biddable advertising format. So it's going to be pay per click. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great question. We also have a question in the chat from June in Texas. I feel like I'm hosting a radio show. June in Texas wants to know, she doesn't have a distributor in Texas, but they're distributing in North Carolina through Johnson Brothers. Would they be able to utilize a tool such as this?
Absolutely. So you can actually, we want to make sure your products are on our platform, and we will only show your products in the states you do have distribution in already. So in your case, June, we would show your brand within North Carolina, since you are tied to Johnson Brothers there. Because with Provi, since again, we're a marketplace, but an ordering platform, we need to make sure that if a retailer did want to order, it would go to a distributor within the 3-tiered system.
Great questions. Want to give it another moment to see if anybody else has a question for Julia before we let her go. And again, just want to remind everybody, this session is being recorded and will be up on the member portal likely sometime tomorrow if you wanted to reference that deck. Yeah, and then I just wanted to call out as well, if you are curious, if you already have distribution in the US and you're curious, if you're already listed on Provi through your distributor, feel free to reach out to me, and we can look into it. And if not, then we can get you set up. I see, Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say my product's new to Georgia. I get set up with the distributor. I don't have the dollars to put a body there or compete with the large brands. Do you have like a general sense of, percent increase on acquisition for that customer? Because, like that retail customer, distributors taking their percentage, and then that customer to get eyes on it. Is there any sort of like standard percent increase on acquisition, or is it just sort of like case by case?
I would say it's going to be case by case, because it also depends on the category you're in as well. But if that is something, we can put this offline to discuss more specifically in your example, but that's something that I can even pull examples of within the category you're in, like case studies.
And then I had one more, going back to that first one about like the distributor, like pushing brands. Have you ever seen a distributor do that? Will they split funds? My guess is that this mostly lives on the supplier side as far as paying for any like extra eyes or anything else, correct?
Correct. However, in some cases, the distributor, it depends on the distributor level. And that's something I've had suppliers speak to their distributor on, in terms of taking funds to put towards something like Provi versus utilizing it a different way. So that's, again, on a case-to-case basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Julie, I don't know if you see that new question in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So Kelly said, can you explain how new brands can incorporate B2B e-commerce into market expansion? So if they are in New York but are deciding between entering into California or North Carolina, could they leverage data from Provi to make that decision? So in certain cases, yes, where if you're looking to go into a new market, we can let you know, where we're seeing growth the fastest, but also keep in mind that's just the Provi platform itself. That doesn't reflect the entire market. It could, because that can also be because we've partnered with a new market, or a new distributor within a market. So, but it is something, if you'd be interested in knowing more specifically on like what are Provi's top 10 markets, we could discuss that. How long does it take to get set up and see the benefits? So it's completely free to have your products showcased on Provi. Again, it would be in the markets you already have distribution in. In terms of brand promotion, if that was something you were interested in, I would say it's about a week to 2 week turnaround. It really just depends, again, if your brands are already set up. And then in terms of benefits, if it's a completely new brand, it's going to take, I say on average to give it, 2 to 3 months, just because it does take that retailer a little bit of time. They see the brand constantly before they actually purchase. It's kind of like, if I go to a website and then all of a sudden every other website I'm going to, I'm getting an ad for that previous site, and then finally, like 5 weeks later, I'm purchasing whatever that initial original product was I clicked on. So I would say I would give it, 2 to 3 months, but during the course of the promotion, you're also able to track those advertising and those metrics we talked about, in terms of impressions, clicks, where you've seen conversions come from on the site, and then points of distribution. That's something we report out on a monthly basis.
Excellent. I love all the questions from this group. They're normally not shy. Just want to check in one more time to see if anybody else has any other questions they want to put in the chat. I think, Julia, also we can share your contact information if folks want to reach out to me if they have questions. We can make sure we get them straight over to you.
Absolutely. And Joe, I can give you my cell phone number as well too, because sometimes I know emails can get lost. So feel free to give me a call as well if it's easier.
Perfect. We will pass that along as well. And I suspect we may see members of the Provi team at the DISCUS annual conference, June 14th and 15th. And yes, that was a shameless plug for that event. More to come on that. So I don't see any other further questions in the chat. I'll give it one more moment while if folks want to type those in there. But I just want to take a moment and personally thank both Julia and David for being on today's call. And for her entire team for getting this set up today. Again, thank you for your thoughts on e-commerce. If anybody has any additional questions, please let me know. And again, this webinar will be up on the DISCUS member portal by tomorrow. So once again, this concludes today's call. Thank you very much and look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.